Hello and welcome back to Coleslaw of My Consciousness. We're going to continue on our journey through the discussion questions of Truly Madly Guilty. So we left off on question 7. Were you surprised that Erica and Oliver have a healthier sex life than Clementine and Sam? Discuss Clementine's bleak view of marriage. Sometimes she felt a sense of loss, of actual grief over the loss of their sex life. Another time she wondered if it was all in her head, if she was being typically melodramatic about something natural and inevitable. It happened to everyone. It was called getting stale. It was called marriage. Do you agree? What are the strengths and the weaknesses of the 3 marriages in the novel? Alright, so for this one, I'm not really an expert on anything that's related to a sex life, but I do think that I wouldn't say that Clementine and Erica as either of them a more healthy relationship in that way, just different ones. Obviously, it's going to be easier to arrange things for Erica and Oliver because they don't have kids. And so it may seem like, oh, it's healthier because they're having it more. Whereas for Clementine and Sam, they have really young kids, so it's really hard to arrange that. But as the kids get older, you could slip back into a more, I don't know what the word I want here is, more looking like Erica and Oliver type sex life. And so I don't think either situation is really that unhealthy. It seems like it's just the time of life that they're at. And other than that, I do think that all of the marriages that are presented most closely, so Clementine and Sam, Erica and Oliver, Envid and Tiffany, which I assume are the 3 that it means, all seem to have pretty healthy relationships. I mean, obviously there's some issues that they have to work through, and that's kind of the point of the discussion in the novel and the guilt in the novel and all that. But like, so far as marriages go, they seem pretty healthy and they're all able to work through those guilts and things. So they seem like pretty strong relationships to me. Alright, so on to the next question. Discuss Clementine and Erica's complicated friendship. It was strange because Clementine always felt that she hid herself from Erica, that she was more herself with her true friends, where the friendship flowed in an ordinary, uncomplicated, grown-up fashion. Emails, phone calls, drinks, dinners, banter, and jokes that everyone got. But right now it felt like none of those friends knew her the raw, ugly, childish, basic way that Erica did. Are the truest friendships the most difficult ones? Or would you say that Erica and Clementine are more like sisters, as Tiffany observes? What did you make of Oliver's statement, "I'm your best friend, Erica, don't you know that?" Do you think best friends of the same gender can be closer than spouses? Why or why not? This one's a naughty one, like full of knots. For me, I would say that the truest friendship is one that lasts through any of life's trials that it comes across. It has nothing to do with how easy it is most of the time to relate to them, like that easy banter and stuff. And it's nothing to do with how hard it is to relate to the actual friend, because I know that Clementine has problems relating to Erica, and that's part of why she doesn't know if she's a true friend. I think that many friendships have elements of siblings, so I don't know that calling the observation of Tiffany that they are more like sisters really means that much. Like, once you get into that true friendship realm, since you are dealing with a lot of life's heavier trials and things, I think that you're going to feel fairly close, like siblings. So that's kind of where I stand on that. I do think it was very adorable that Oliver called himself Erica's best friend. I would hope that Oliver would be able to feel that way, and I hope someday that I have that level of closeness with my own future spouse. And in my eyes, I would hope that the spouse would be the one that would be who you are closest with. It makes the most sense since they're the person you're going to be living out so much of your day-to-day life with, that they should be the one that you should be able to relate to on every single level and be able to connect with and talk about all those deep, troubling, hard issues together. So I think that hopefully it's your spouse, but I can totally understand if you feel like you relate more to people of the same gender or whatever, and you have that one best friend who's been with you since like childhood or been through thick and thin of whatever form, and you feel like you're closer to them. It probably depends a little bit on each person and how they relate to other people, just how much that experience would go to. All right, so next question. What did you make of Erica's request that Clementine donate her eggs? Were you surprised by Clementine's response? Erica tells Oliver, "We did save Ruby's life, that's a fact. Why shouldn't they repay us by doing something in return? And what does it matter what her motivations are? Do you agree that in this case the ends justify the means?" Alright, so for this one, I thought it was strange to ask a best friend for the eggs. Yes, we were just talking about how true friendship is going through all those hardest things together, and we were talking about how you should be able to be strong enough to go through life's trials to have a true friendship, but it's just weird to me. I mean, yes, it's the sort of thing that you would hope your friends could do for you, but there's so many strange implications. I'm kind of in Clementine's boat that I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my life looking at that child, looking for my face in them, or being in Erica's shoes and looking at that child and looking for my best friend's face in them. It would just be weird to me. And I mean, in the context of the novel too, we know that it would be a pity baby, and especially with that added onto it, I just couldn't do it. But if you and your friends are good for that and you feel like you could do it, and it's not a pity baby thing, then sure, the ends justify the means. It's just not a situation I'd ever go for personally. It's one of those weird things that I could not ask of my friends. Alright, so next question. In the novel, parenting is not always easy and wonderful. No one warned you that having children reduced you right down to something small, a rudimentary, primitive version of yourself, where your talents and your education and your achievements meant nothing. What do you think? How do the various mothers and fathers balance family and career? My first thought on this is parenting supposed to be easy and wonderful? I mean, yes, you want to have kids and you want to raise them and give them a good life and stuff, but I feel like as a not parent, that even with me when I go into it, I'll know that it's not going to be an easy thing, and that, you know, there'll be wonderful aspects to it, but you'll also have those days where you've got a kid who's screaming while you're riding on a train or something, and you can't get them to shut up, and you can't go into another room and give either you or your child some space, and you're going to have people staring at you, and I mean, that's just part of being a parent. It's expected that it's not going to be easy, isn't it? At least it is for me, I guess. I'm expecting that it'll be rough, but yeah. Okay, so on to the other part of it. How do the parents balance their careers and their families? So I think that we got to see a lot of different parenting styles through the novel, and we got to see that there are many, many different routes to raise a family. You've got ones like Sylvia, who, yes, also had her hoarding issues going on, but she was a little bit of a hands-off parent, but pretending like she was more of a hands-on parent because she did random things like taking the girls to an amusement park one day when they were supposed to be at school. Or you've got the parents who are like Clementine and Sam, who are like, we're just trying to get by, we're doing our best. You've got the ones like Clementine's parents who are a little more controlling. You've got the very free to do whatever you want in Vid and Tiffany, and you can kind of see different results based on each of those parenting styles and see maybe what kind of things you'd want to aim for in your own parenting life. So that's what I got from those. Alright, next question. Money and class are knotty issues in this novel. Vid's relationship with wealth seems to be very straightforward. He had the money, he could afford the best, so he'd buy the best and take pleasure in it. Tiffany's, though, is more complicated. Why do you think that is? What role do you think gender plays in this difference, if at all? So personally, I didn't really see that much difference in Tiffany and Vid with the money. They both seemed pretty willing to just go in and spend money on something if they felt it was worth the money. Yes, maybe Vid is a little more open with it, but Tiffany went along with his lifestyle and allowed him to build that house and wanted certain things like having window seats and stuff. And so she was looking for specific luxuries too. So I don't know that their ideals of money are all that different. It's just that she's not necessarily like, I'll just spend everything. I just have certain luxuries that I look for instead. And I don't know that it's really a gender thing at all. It's more just their type of lifestyle. Vid, in his lifestyle, wants fun, always looking for the fun. And Tiffany wants to have security. And so that house is her security. She's got her nest egg that's her security. So she looks at money as a protection, and he looks at it as a way to have fun. But they both are pretty willing to spend it when the need arises, at least so far as I can tell. And it doesn't seem to be a gender thing. Next question. Discuss this description of Sam and Clementine. First world medical care meant they didn't have to pay for first world negligence. What is the relationship between status and guilt for the characters? So I don't think that status really plays into the guilt in the novel because everyone feels guilt and they're all in different levels of status. So yeah, that's pretty much that one for me. All right, next question. Dakota spends a good portion of the novel feeling guilty that Ruby fell into the fountain, and then at the end, we find out that Holly also feels guilt about her sister falling in. These two children shouldered tremendous guilt that no one realized, just as Erica felt guilt over her mother's situation. The famous psychologist and psychoanalyst Erik Erikson believed that there are 8 stages of development for children, one of which is guilt. As a child, did you feel guilty about something that you now realize was not your fault? And how did this shape you as an adult? I can't think of any circumstances that would apply, and that is that. I thought about this before. I kind of wrote out some answers to the questions, and I got nothing for this one, so that's that. Next question. Sylvia's hoarding is a major source of embarrassment and sorrow for Erica. She reflects her mother loved things so much that she had nothing. What do you make of that line? So basically, how I interpreted that is that Sylvia is collecting things, but lets them deteriorate because she just wants to collect things and have things around her. And that makes them become garbage and nothing. And so she doesn't have any meaningful relationships because she's so focused on just having stuff around her. And then even that stuff deteriorates, and that drives people away further as well. So no meaningful relationship with her things, no meaningful relationship with people. Kind of a sad, sad life when you look at it. Hoarding seems like a not fun experience. Anyways, next question. Near the end of the novel, Clementine wonders what sort of person Erica could have been, would have been, should have been if she'd been given the privilege of an ordinary home. You could jump so much higher when you had somewhere safe to fall. Do you agree? How are the various characters helped and hindered by their respective childhoods? So personally, I'm of the belief that your life is what you make of it. Circumstances can create habits, but those habits can be broken if you truly want to change. And some people use those circumstances as an excuse not to change. For example, even with Erica, how she started stealing stuff from Clementine. She didn't steal from anyone else, but her little excuse is that it's from Clementine. It's okay, I can do this one thing. And so, in part, she has a slight bit of hoarding because of the circumstances that she grew up in, and then she lets that be an excuse for why she does this thing and doesn't try to change it until Oliver finds out about it, and then she's like, okay, I have to give this up. I've been thinking about giving it up for years, so I'm going to start giving some of this stuff back. And that's that. So you can choose if you're going to follow that path or not, and that's where I stand on it. Is maybe in some ways it'd be easier to jump higher starting at a more normal level, but you can jump just as high from a lower level if you truly want to. So that's my take on that. All right. discuss Clementine's revelation about Sam. Her focus had always been on how his actions affected her feelings, as if his role was to do things for her, to her, and all that mattered was her emotional response to him, as if a man were a product or a service, and she'd finally chosen the right brand to get the right response. Was it possible she'd never seen or truly loved him the way he deserved to be seen and loved, as a person, an ordinary, flawed, feeling person? Does that resonate with you at all? Short answer, yes. To continue on with that thought, I do think that all of us probably have some degree of that feeling in our lives. It's very easy to get selfish, especially in relationships, and think, oh, this person's just here for me, to serve me, me, and to forget that the other person is a person who kind of feels the same way or has needs of their own as well. And then our final question. Sam and Clementine can't understand why they are so affected by the barbecue. They weren't fighting over money or sex or housework. There were no naughty issues to untangle. Everything was the same as before the barbecue. It was just that nothing felt the same. What do they mean by that? And how does life change for the three families after the barbecue? Do you think they're ultimately strengthened by what they went through? So I think this goes back a bit to our discussion of what is normal. And I think that they feel like even normal isn't normal anymore because it's colored by that event of almost losing their child. So it seemed like all the families did ultimately end up being strengthened by that experience at the barbecue, because then they had to grow past that trauma and learn how to get over their guilt and to work through some of these situations together, because some of these couples never had to face anything like this. And so it was like, how do we get past these big naughty issues? What do we do? How do we handle these things? And so I think that's kind of what's going on there, and that it wasn't good that the child had to almost die for it to happen, but that it did help make all the relationships better in the long run, because they learned how to cope and to grow and to still stay strong to each other in spite of trauma and things like that. So that's all my stuff with the discussion questions. All my thoughts on the discussion questions from Truly Madly Guilty. If you have your own thoughts and want to respond to any of these questions as well, feel free to down in the comments. I'd love to hear some other people's opinions and start a real actual discussion instead of just me being like, I'm going to answer discussion questions without discussing them with anyone. But yeah, that's all I've got for now. So I hope you guys have had some fun hearing some of my opinions on these things. And this is the Umlaut Herper signing out.